Hi everyone. So today we are going to be working on a variety of different exercises on Microsoft Access, and this will be a continuation of the first tutorial that was made by Amanda. And so we will be working on the same Minute Clinic database, and this is a database that includes a variety of different information about the clinics in this patient. So about the patients in this clinic. So we are going to start off by opening up what we were working on before, and the last thing that Amanda had completed was creating the patient visits query. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. And so as you can see, it's kind of, not sorted, and it's in no alphabetical order, anything. So we're going to go ahead and put it in design view. And as you can see, there's a sort section in this area. So we want to go ahead and sort it by city first, and we want to sort it in ascending, so it's alphabetical. And then not only do we want it to sort it by city at first, the second criteria we want is we want it to be sorted by visit date as well. So we want it to be descending. So once we have all of that put, we are going to go ahead and run the query. So as you can see, it is in alphabetical order by city first, and then it is secondarily sorted by the visit date. So we want to go ahead and save that. And now we are all set with what we have right now with this patient visits query. So next we'll be completing pages 142 to 143. So we're going to go ahead and go to the ribbon and press the Create tab. Once we're here, we want to press the Query Design button within the Query section. Then, as you see, we get this Show Table dialog box. So these are all of our tables, and it's asking us which tables we want to include in our queries. So what we want to do is we want to select the patient table and then the visit table, and you can just do this by double-clicking. And once we have them, we're going to go ahead and, stretch them out so we can see all of the different fields that are in both. So we're going to press on the last name, first name, phone, address, city, and email. That is all from the patient table. And then from the visit table, we're going to go ahead and press visit ID and visit date, and also the reason. So now we want to make the query even more specific. Right below here is the criteria section for each of the fields. So the criteria section is what allows us to specify what we are looking for. So in this condition, we are looking for patients specifically from the city of Bloomfield. So we're going to go ahead, type in quotes, type in Bloomfield, end quotes. Also, so now that we know that all of our patients are going to be from the city of Bloomfield, we're going to go ahead and uncheck the show box because we don't need that to show if all of our patients are from the same city. So once that happens, we can go ahead and save the query, and we're going to name this Bloomfield Patients. Okay, we're going to press OK. And then we can go ahead and run our query and see what it looks like. So these are all of our patients that are from Bloomfield, and as you can see, the city is not typed in here because we don't need it, because we know, like I said, everyone is from Bloomfield. So we're going to go ahead and make the same exact query, except we're going to do it using SQL. So we're going to X this out, and we're going to go ahead to the Create button, Query Design, and we're going to X this Show Table dialog box out because we won't be needing it for the SQL language. So we're going to press Data Definition, and this is going to be our wonderful typing space. So we're going to start off by saying select as our command, and then we're going to say patient dot first name. So just to explain why we're typing this, patient is the table that the field is coming from, separated by a dot, and then first name is the field that we want. So in order to fill out the rest of the fields that we want, we're just going to separate them by commas. So we're going to say patient, last name, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and type these out and you guys follow along. and these are all from the patient table. Those are the ones that we're going to do first. So once we get to the visit table, we're going to be switching. So we're going to say visit ID instead of patient, because that is not the table that we're working on anymore. Visit dot visit dates, visit dot reason from patient, and then after that we're going to be saying inner join, because we're joining the both tables together to create this query. Inner join visit, and on patient dot patient ID, where it equals to visit dot patient ID, because the patient ID is the foreign key for this table. And then we're going to type in our criteria as the last line. So where patient dot city equals quote, and it's always so important to remember the quotes, Bloomfield, and then a semicolon is always going to be the key to finishing off an SQL statement. So once we have all of that, we're going to run it, and you may get mistakes, you may not. The smallest comma or quotation mark can set something off, so we're going to go ahead and run it, and everything seemed to work perfectly. So as you can see, we got the same exact query, except we use SQL to create it. So we're going to go ahead and save this and name it SQL Bloomfield Patients. We're going to say OK. So we're going to go ahead and X that out. And in the navigation pane, we are going to now see that the Bloomfield Patients query is there. So we're going to go ahead and make a copy of it, but then we're going to make some changes and modify it with similar criteria to make another query that we can use. So we're going to go ahead and press copy by right-clicking, pasting, and we're going to go ahead and name this query earlier visits. Press OK. We're going to go ahead and open the earlier visits query that we just created, and then we're going to go to the design view. So it has all of the same criteria that we just made in the Bloomfield Patients, except we want to change this. So we're going to go ahead to the visit date box for the criteria, and we want patients that came in before January 1st, 2016. So we're going to do less than and type in the date, and we're going to press tab. Oh, sorry, I just did that with visit ID. See, it's very important to pay attention because the smallest thing can change everything on Microsoft Access. So we're going to go ahead 1/2016 and tab. As you can see, we get hashtags around that, and that just does it automatically because that is the formatting for dates on Microsoft Access. And then we're going to go ahead and delete this Bloomfield criteria because that isn't what we're looking for. We want to see who's been to the clinic before January 1st, 2016. So we're going to go ahead and run that. And here are the results that we get for the people that came into the clinic before, the date that we just specified. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And we're actually going to go back to that design view and make sure that we press the city show box, because now we're not dealing with people from just Bloomfield, we're dealing with people from many different cities. So we're going to run that. And as you can see, here we go. We have the cities showing again, not just Bloomfield, we have other cities as well. So we're going to save, and we're going to X out of that. So we'll now go to page 150 and create a new query. And so we're going to go ahead and press create and query design. And we're going to select the patient table and the visit table. I'm going to close that, stretch these two out, and we are going to select first name, last name, birth date, phone, and city. And then from the visit, we're going to do visit date and reason. And now we're going to add two criteria. So the first one is going to be people that were born before December 31st, 1956. And so I didn't add the hashtags yet because once you press tab, it is added for you. But you have to say less or equal to, so it gives you the people that were before. And then the reason will be influenza, so we want people that are born before then and who came in for influenza. We're going to go ahead and save this query as older and flu patients. Say go ahead, okay, and run that. So as you can tell, we have only a few patients that are older and came in for influenza. So we're going to say make the same exact query except in SQL, so you can go ahead and X this out. And once again, create query design. We're going to X out of the table dialog box because we don't need it. And we're going to press data definition. And we're going to type in what it takes in order to make this query in SQL. So first, we're going to type in select, which is our command, and then every single field that we are going to be grabbing. And like I said, it's always going to be the table first and the field first. And don't forget your commas in between the fields. And once we get to the visit, we switch over to the visit table for the table, and then dot, and then the field that we want from the visit table. From, like I said again, it's from the patient table, interjoining with the visit table as well. And patient ID is the foreign key. And then our criteria, like I said, we begin it with where. So it is where patient dot birth date is less than or equal to, and remember your hashtags because it will not automatically be filled in for you. 12/31/1956. End it with another hashtag. And then we want another criteria, so we're going to say and for visit dot reason being influenza, which equals, remember your quotations, influenza, and always end with a semicolon for SQL. So we're going to go ahead and run that. And we got the same results, except we made that through SQL, and we want to go ahead and save it. SQL, older, and flu patients. So once we're done with that, we can go ahead and X out. So now we are going to create a query that uses the OR logical operator. So we're going to go ahead and make a copy of the older and flu patients query. So we're going to hit copy and paste that. And we're going to go ahead and just say okay to that for now. And we're going to open that and make it and put it into design view. And we're actually going to change the name for that first before we do anything so we're not confused. So we want this query to give us older or flu patients. So it will not be the combination of the two. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put that in design view. So as you can see, or is actually an option. It's not, for the criteria. It could be, them being born before December 31st, 1956 with influenza, or it could be they can either be older or have had influenza. So I'm going to go ahead and delete influenza from the criteria section, and we're going to go ahead and put it down in the or section. And let's go ahead and run that. And as you can see, we get a lot more results in this query. We have people that had influenza, and we have people that had been born before 1956, as well as a combination of those two. So the OR operator functions a little bit different than the AND. So now we're going to go ahead and make this into SQL, and make sure you save all your work before you X out of anything. So we can actually go ahead and make a copy of the SQL older and flu patients. So we'll go ahead, copy, paste, and we're going to say, we'll name this SQL older or flu patients. Press OK. So then we're going to go ahead and put that into the data definition view. So next we're going to go ahead and select which fields we want from the visit table and which fields we want from the billing table. So first, from the visit, we're going to get visit ID, patient ID, as well as visit date. And then from billing, we want the invoice item, there we go, invoice paid, and invoice amount. So go ahead and go to the invoice paid criteria box, and we're going to type in no, and it's going to try to put all of these different formulas your way, but just press the escape button because that's what you want. And we're going to go ahead and uncheck the show box because we don't want to show that. We want it to be a query that calculates the late fee for people who have not paid. So to the right of the invoice amount, we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click and say build. So basically we want the late fee to be 2% of whatever the invoice amount was. So we're going to go ahead and find the invoice amount in the billing table. So we're going to double click that, and as you can see it shows up right here. So that is basically saying whatever the invoice amount is, and then we're going to type in an asterisk and type in 0.02 for 2%. And we're going to go ahead and say OK. And so basically, like I said, the late fee will be 2% of what the invoice amount is for the patient. And we can go ahead and name this late fee and take out expression 1. And in the property sheet, we're also going to change that into late fee with a space so it comes out pretty in the query format. So you can go ahead and run that, and this is going to be the late fee expression, as you can tell. So this is what they owe because they have not paid this invoice amount. This is 2% of whatever this is. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And we're going to save it as unpaid invoice late fee. We're going to say OK. And so now we want to make this exact query, except we want to make it using SQL. Before we do that, we want to go back to the design view, and we want to make the format of it as currency, just so it makes sense. So now you can see it's in the dollar format, so it matches the invoice amount. So we're going to go ahead and save that, and we're going to exit out of this. So, like I said, now we're going to create the same exact thing except using SQL. So we're going to go ahead and create query design, X out that show table dialog box, and then go to data definition. We're going to go ahead and start with the command, select, and we're going to go ahead and type the fields that we want. And we're going to switch over to the billing table. And then, so when it comes to the invoice amount, we're going to say invoice AMT asterisk 0.02. I'm going to say as, because that's what we want it to show up as, late fee from, because these are the tables the information is from, visit, joining with, inner join billing, and the foreign key is the visit ID because it is included in both of them. On visit ID equals billing dot visit ID. And don't forget that we also have the criteria of the invoice paid being no, because this is for the late fee for the people that have not paid their bill. So where billing dot invoice paid equals no. And we're going to do semicolon to end that off. So let's go ahead and run and see if this works. So as you can see, it works perfect, and we have our late fee calculated, and we were able to make that through SQL. So we want to go ahead and save it as SQL unpaid invoice late fee. I'm going to go press OK to that. So now just press save and all set. And so now that we're all set with that, we can go ahead and exit. And the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and work on displaying the total amount of all invoices in the billing table. So we're going to go open up the billing table. And in this records group, you can see the totals button. So you're going to go ahead, scroll to the bottom, and you want to press totals. So in this, you can see that if you would like to create a total for a numeric or a currency, there is a drop-down box. So you can basically calculate the sum, the average, count, maximum, minimum, standard deviation, and variance for this. So you have many different options. But for us, we're going to press the sum because we want to see what is the sum of all of our invoices. What is the total of it? So after we do that, we can see that our client actually doesn't want the totals to show. So in order to get rid of it, we can just simply undo the totals by clicking it again and exit out. And don't save anything because our client doesn't want it to be showing. So now we are going to make a new query. So go ahead and click Create, Query Design, and select the billing table. But we're not going to just select it once, we're going to select it 3 times. So all we have to do is just, so we're going to select it once, I'm sorry. So we're going to remove that table. And so what we're going to select 3 times is actually the invoice amount. So we're going to do it once, twice, 3. So while still in design view, we're going to go ahead and click the totals button on the show hide group, but we're going to do this in design. So what that did is that it added a total row for each field. So if you can see that once we press the down arrow, it gives us all of these different total options. So what our client wants us to do is they want us to get us the minimum invoice amount for the first column, and then the average, and then the maximum. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to say minimum. Next one will be average, and then the last one will be maximum. So in the property sheet, there's also captions. So the caption is what basically shows up once you run it. So we want to go ahead and we want to make the caption for this as min invoice amount. We can put spaces in this, and then for the caption for the next one is average invoice amount. And then for the last one, max invoice amount. So we can go ahead and run that, and we can see that the minimum was $30 for invoice, average was $101.49, the maximum invoice was $450. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to see if that is invoice amount statistics. And say OK to that. And so we are all set with that. So we can go ahead and X that out and make the same exact query except in SQL. So we're going to go ahead and press Create on the ribbon, Query Design, X out the Show Table dialog box, press Data Definition, and now you're allowed to type in what will create it. So we are first going to type min, billing is the table, invoice amount is the field, and we want it to show up as minimum invoice amount, and then comma, and then we want to get the average now. So average, and this is basically like the formula kind of. So average, and then billing dot invoice AMT as average invoice amount. We're going to comma, and then lastly we're going to do the max billing dot invoice AMT as maximum invoice amount. And this is all straight from the billing table. Semicolon. So like I said, this is what we'll calculate. This is the part that will be calculating it, and then this is what we want it to show up as the field title. So we're going to go ahead and run that. And we got a small problem here, and that is because we did not put our first command in, which makes sense. So we're going to go ahead and say select, and there we go. So, you know, like I said, when you're coming to do SQL, you need to make sure you have all the components. You know, if you're putting in criteria, if you're putting in, if you just want to see certain things from a table, you have to make sure you're putting in that command. You have to make sure you have the semicolon at the end as the last step. So just be very, very aware when you're typing in SQL. So now we're going to go ahead and save that. And we're going to save it as SQL invoice AMT statistics. We're going to say OK to that. So we're all set, so we can exit out of this. So now we're going to be completing pages 166 to 167. So we're going to go ahead and open up the invoice amount statistics query in the design view. So now we're going to go ahead and click File, and we're going to say Save Object As, and we're going to go ahead and type. So this is kind of a little bit different. So invoice amount statistics by walk-in. Okay. And we're going to say OK to that. And so now it's in design view as well. And we can go ahead and open the show table dialog box one more time. And that's right in the query setup group. And so we also would like to go ahead and add in the visit table, because we want to see if these people are, you know, if their appointment is walk-in or if it's by appointment. So we're going to do walk-in, and it is already selected group by. And so once we do that, we don't have to really change anything because we want it to be grouped by the walk-ins or not. So we're going to go ahead and run this. And so basically we have the prices, the minimum, the average, and the maximum for walk-in versus not walk-in. So now you have, you know, the difference of what the invoice amounts look like between the patients that are, you know, that have appointments or that don't. So now we can go ahead and just press save so you don't lose any work. And we're going to go ahead and make this in SQL as well. So we're going to go to the Create tab, Query Design, exit of that show table, and then Data Definition, and now we're going to type in our SQL. Actually though, another way that could be easier for you to do this, there's a different way actually. So we're going to change it from and into or. So we can go ahead and say SQL view and say right where it says and, we're going to go ahead and backspace that and press or instead. And so that should give us the same thing. And then we're also going to order it by the patient birth date. So before the semicolon, we're going to go ahead and press enter and add order by, which gives us the sort. And we want to order it by the patient birth date. So once you do that, you can go ahead and run. And as you can see, we have the same older or flu patients in SQL, except now it's also descending by the patient birth date as well. So we can go ahead and press save, and we can X that out. So then we can go ahead and complete pages 157 to 161. So we're going to go ahead and press the Create tab on the ribbon and press Query Design, and then we can go ahead and add the visit and billing tables. And make those dialog boxes a little bit larger. So in order to make the invoice amount statistics by walk-in query in SQL, we can go ahead and open up the SQL that we already made from the original one. We can go ahead and copy that, and then exit out of that, and then we're going to go create, query design, exit out of that, data definition, and we're going to paste that, except now we're going to modify many different things. So after select, we're going to add the walk-in from the visit table. So we're going to say visit dot walk-in. We're going to make sure to add a comma and then the original fields after that. And then we're going to delete from just billing because that's not where we're getting it from. It's going to be more from that. So we're going to say from visit inner join billing on visit.visit ID and equals, so the foreign key is the visit ID for both tables. And then we're also going to say, because we want to group by visit.walk-in. And that should do the trick. So we basically added the visit walk-in field as well as grouping it by the walk-in. And we also had to say that we were getting information from the visit and billing, not just billing. So let's go ahead and run that. And as you can see, we get the same exact results. So we can go ahead and save that and say SQL invoice AMT statistics by walk-in. So once you have completed that, we have completed our entire Access and query SQL tutorial. So I hope that now you know how to make your information useful, create different queries that show us different information that is important, and just an overall process of how useful queries can be and how interesting the SQL language can turn out to be as well when it comes to creating, just in case if you can't do it this way, you have the other way to fall back on. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial and have fun playing around with Microsoft Access because there's so much you can do.